Johnny's back in here. What do you think? Contreras is good as gone. What kind of return could they get from? We've talked a lot about Wilson Contreras, and the assumption there is that he and a bunch of other Cubs are going to be gone.
Yeah, and if I was the Cubs, because the extension talks so far have gone basically nowhere with Contreras, and maybe that changes, maybe it doesn't. But if I was them, I would seriously entertain trading him. And that's a scary one because I know we've talked about this before, but it's really hard to find a franchise catcher. And Contreras is definitely a franchise catcher who can be the Cubs version of Yadier Molina, even though Cubs fans won't like being compared to the Cardinals. So I would think long and hard about trading Contreras, and I'd be hesitant to do it. But you can end up getting a pretty decent package for him just because of his talent, and some team that needs a catcher might pay more than some others, and I would not rule it out. I know you think it's what you said the last show was 95-5 that they trade him or something like that. I'm still in the 50-50 range.
If I said 95-5, I must have lost my mind for a second. I don't think it's quite that high.
Okay.
But it's certainly no lower in my mind than 80-20. I mean, I think they should have signed him long ago if they were keeping him. So that the two are going to have some epiphany here, and Contreras is going to get this close to free agency and say, you know what, I'll just take my chips off the table and not see where this is going to go. And the Cubs are going to sit there and say, you know what, we're going to be right with you in free agency, Wilson, and we'll be at the top, and we'll make you have a tough decision. I don't see that happening either. So at least an 80% chance in my mind that he's going to go.
Because it's tough if you're the Cubs, like that's a really difficult decision because I mean, obviously you traded all those guys last year. And Contreras is the last guy. I mean, you can include Kyle Hendricks in that. But like as part of that core that came up, won World Series, and just changed Cubs baseball. And boy, I'll tell you, that to me would be harder to move Contreras than it would be to move Chris Bryant or Baez or anybody like that. Like that'd be a very difficult decision for me.
Wow. Okay. They're just so far down the road and nowhere close to winning that I have no problem with them making any trades that will pay off in 3-4 years. Other names for the Cubs being mentioned: Wade Miley, Kyle Hendricks, Drew Smiley, David Robertson could be a good sign and flip guy. He's pitched well. Those been on the DL and now back. So would anybody give up anything of interest for Robertson? By the way, also the Cubs were one of the first teams last year in dealing in. Jock Peterson went to Atlanta early. So normally these things don't go down till, the end of July, but the Cubs have already picked their path.
No, for sure. And also, so some insight on that Braves deal where they ended up getting Jock Peterson from them is they had talks about Peterson like earlier that year, and they were even talking about it at the time. And Alex Anthopoulos was desperate because they had just lost Ronald Acuna for the year, and they needed a spark in the locker room. He even communicated it to Jed Hoyer that he'd be willing to pay more to acquire Peterson now to get a deal done. And lo and behold, they ended up agreeing to a deal. That was a special situation, but it's definitely shows that a deal is possible before that deadline or when other teams would be willing to make a deal.